everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave. It's Gem here and today it's time to tackle our Scrawler challenge for March. Just before we get started on this, I wanted to mention the cave stash. I am leaving suggestions open for what to spend our £50 on for our Caves Fund video. If you haven't had a look at that video or you want to make a suggestion as to what supply you'd like to see me buy, there is a link in the end card to the video that I talked about it in specifically. So if you head over there and watch that, you can leave your suggestion in the comments below. I'm going to leave this open until Sunday and then I'm going to shortlist the most popular suggestions and you guys can vote on it either via the community tab here on YouTube, but the poll will also go up on Facebook as well if you have access to Facebook and you'd rather do it that way. Okay, so our Scrawlrbox was an interesting one this month. Again, if you haven't watched the unboxing, I'll leave that link in the end card and you can go and see me mess about with these in the first instance. And our prompt for the month is Imaginarium. So thinking about an area that is dedicated to the imagination or just the sort of general gist of your imagination, and they do suggest trying to draw your own imagination, which is partially frightening and interesting at the same time. Just before I get started on the actual drawing, I just wanted to show you what I was doing when I was messing about earlier. I have sketched out what I'm going to draw in my sketchbook, but I wanted to have another little go with these markers and I tried to layer up some of the markers just to see if I could get any tonal variation, you know, by actually layering rather than blending, and it wasn't all that successful. I managed to get a slightly deeper kind of terracotta tone, but it's not dissimilar to the darkest shade in the gold brown set, which is this one here. When I put the blues over the top of anything, they just went a sort of muddy grey colour because the blues are actually quite dark. And when I put the pink over the lightest yellow, it gave me this sort of slightly paler pinky colour, but again it's not that far off the palest pink anyway, it's just got a slightly yellow tinge to it obviously. So in terms of actually layering the markers, it's not really going to give me a lot more to work with in terms of colours, and to be truthful I don't know how much blending I'm actually going to do with these, but I haven't planned out any colours, I just sketched out my drawing, so we're just going to get started and see how it goes. So when I was thinking about my Imaginarium, the first thing that springs to mind with me personally is the fact that quite a lot of my principles and my thought processes are very polarised, and I wanted to kind of reflect that in my drawing. So I've actually got two sides to my drawing, and I did a rough sketch out here of a landscape of what I think my mind looks like, and there is a top side and a bottom side to that. So that was kind of like my take on the prompt, as it were, and I put down a rough idea there, but I didn't actually go into any detail with it because I kind of like to keep that for the final drawing, but I like to have a rough idea of where I'm going. And I know a lot of people, when they sketch a draft of something, they do it down to like the nth degree, whereas I tend to like to just kind of let it flow and see where it takes me, and this is no different. So I want to get my basic shape down first, and I'm going to have to try and judge roughly where I want this. So because it's going to be quite a complicated image, I'm just blocking in the basic shapes first to really make sure that I'm happy with the positioning of things. Sticking to mostly ellipses and rectangular shapes to begin with. Okay, I think I'm fairly happy with that. So now we're going to start working on a little bit of detail. So as I say, this is kind of like what I would say is a landscape of my mind. And one of the things that I associate with is the top side, or the sensible, happy side of my brain. And one of the places I am happiest is when I'm out in a field with my dogs. So grass was going to be a feature, and having 0 shades of green is going to be super helpful doing this. So we'll just have to play that one by ear, I think. And the other thing that's quite calming is water, and we have a waterfall near where we live now. So I have a slightly augmented waterfall. As you can see, it's coming from a bottle, and there is a very special bottle that is square, and that would be known as a Jack Daniel's bottle. So I figure that should probably feature in things here too. And also something that features quite heavily, certainly in my artwork, are trees, so I figured it would probably be a good idea to have some of those in as well. Have ourselves a little forest here. But of course this isn't going to be any ordinary forest. And these trees of course are going to be paintbrushes. Maybe have one or two with some paint on them. And I really need to steady up my horizon line here as well. I imagine the top side of my imagination is quite a calm place, so I decided that I wanted some sort of sunset in, and having oranges and yellows, that's going to be made significantly easier, which is really cool as well. I'm going to have a kind of mountain range here. It's not going to be an ordinary mountain range though, because that would be no fun. It's going to be a hillock of candles. Again, something I find very relaxing. And again, just sort of balancing out the shape of my paintbrush trees. I can mimic that over here with the flames of the candles. And I'm going to have them going straight up because there's going to be no breeze or wind. It's all going to be very calm. And that's to reflect that nice happiness that I get when everything's chilled out and I'm drawing or painting. These candles have been burnt more than once, so they're going to have a little bit of wax slipping down. And it's something I quite enjoy as well when you've burnt out, especially the kind of like the pillar candles, and they start to leave little sort of drippy patterns down the side of them. I kind of like that. And the other thing I wanted to do, this is going to be quite a fine detail, but I like things to be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? I like things to be quite orderly, and I feel very calm and very happy, and in my head I like everything to be very sort of regimented. And one of the sort of representations of that I would like to put in is a fence, because a fence to me is a feeling of safety, and it's not necessarily to keep things in, but sometimes to keep things out. And fences feature quite heavily obviously at the farm as well. They're kind of essential because we've got animals. So I wanted to put in a little fence, but this fence is going to have a twist because this fence is going to be made of pencils. Now I don't know how detailed I'm going to be able to keep this, but again, this is a really good exercise for me. I don't even know if it's my drawing style. I find I'm very blind to a drawing style, but I do tend to favour more sort of simplistic pictures. This is probably a good exercise for me. I feel the only sort of downside to this is I feel that this kind of drawing should be done on a much larger sheet of paper in order to get more detail in. So there we go. That is the what I would call the right side of my mind, or the top side of my imagination, where trees are made out of paintbrushes. And the last thing I want to add in here is down this side of the waterfall. I'm just going to take this part out. Is that this waterfall is going to turn into a book. Okay, now I'm going to go to the bottom side of my mind. How scary is that? So I'm going to turn this the other way round, because I do feel that this is the topsy-turvy part of my mind where things don't necessarily always make sense, and it's quite an intimidating and quite a scary place. And I've got this overwhelming whoosh, so what was a lovely calm waterfall is now an overwhelming tidal wave. And then in behind here there's some really dark sinister clouds, really low hanging clouds. You know, just to keep it nice and jolly and light. There's this big craggy mountain whose top goes up into the clouds. And he has, and it's a him, and he has big, evil, menacing eyes. And that is my own sense of judgment. And that is judgment towards myself. Self-judgment. And down in here is a little person with a Pinocchio nose. And he's only got a Pinocchio nose because I want it to be seen. And he is just staring up at the overwhelmingness of this horrible, chaotic landscape. There's maybe an unknown body buried here. And everything has eyes. You're always being watched. I think we've crammed in as much as we're going to on this particular sheet of paper. And so we're going to go back to the cheery side and we're going to make a start here. Now I've not separated the colours to use in certain areas the way I've separated my picture out, but I am going to try and use more of the warmer colours in the top half, so the pink and the yellow, and keep more of the blue and the fine liner for the dark side of the drawing. I might even incorporate just a bit of graphite pencil as well. I'm also finding that this fine liner is not fine enough for what I like as well. It's very clumsy. There's also lots of writing on a Jack Daniel's bottle, so and it's white. Now I'm going to try and use this sort of gradient effect to my advantage here. So I'm layering up the lightest pink here with the palest yellow, and it's given me a kind of like a muddy shade, which it's not ideal, but we'll live. I think these paintbrush trees are probably my favourite thing out of this whole drawing. Now see, this is where I get a bit gripey, because it would be nice to have a few different colours to use for my paintbrushes, you know, for the paint that's on some of the tips. So let's think about these paintbrushes. Well, I'm having to think really carefully about what colours I'm putting where. So I'm going to use the darkest one now. Oh, I've forgotten my bristles. And then maybe these ones here. Maybe try a bit of blending here. Oh no, wrong way again. Damn it. So let's use a little bit of the lightest blue here. And even for the size of the details in my drawing, this is kind of tight. Now I'm going to use the darkest pink here. I think this is the dark, yeah. I want to go over them with this darkest brown as well, because I do want a little bit of contrast between the trunks and the actual trees. Again, not much room for blending or anything. And I think I'm going to use my pencil in here and make the furrows look shiny. Try and blend this out a bit. It's about the only place I'm going to get to do this, so yeah. Now I'm not going to do a huge amount here. I'm just going to stick in a couple of lines, really, more than anything. I do feel that by giving someone the prompt that they have given and then given you such a limited colour palette, it really doesn't, you know, it's really stifling, and I'm actually at the point where I'm kind of finding this awkward, because I'm not actually depicting what I want to depict. I'm just trying to get the colours to fit in around what I'm drawing, which it's not, well, it's just not ideal really, is it? Let's be realistic. And it's like, what am I going to do with my pencil fence? The answer is, truthfully, not a lot. And this fine liner is way too thick for this. I felt as if I had this in pencil though, it would just disappear and it might look unfinished. I might be wrong, but this is my frustration. This is how I'm feeling about this. And I always say, when I'm doing things like this, I'm always quite honest about what it is I'm doing. Again, bearing in mind, like, you're working on the confines of an A5 sheet. If we look at the featured artist's artwork, I have a sneaking suspicion that this was done digitally. In fact, no, I don't have a sneaking suspicion. This was done digitally, and you can tell by the smoothness of the colours and the flatness of the texture. Plus as well, the level of detail, which is on supposedly a page the same size. There is absolutely no way you could get lines of that weight, especially with the markers when you look at some of the details down here. And I think that they've not really given that much thought, you know, for someone that maybe wanted to do a bit of more detail work, which is ironic because I generally don't. But yeah, this is, I'm really sorry, this has just turned into a complete moan. I was really excited about this picture though, this is the thing, and I was really looking forward to doing it because it's not something I would normally do, and I thought that's really good because it's going to push me to do something a little bit different. Most of you know me well enough by now to know that I am a stubborn old mare, so I will persevere, and we can see what, if anything, we can get out of this. One of the things that did cross my mind with this challenge was to get out the old surgical spirit, or rubbing alcohol if you're in the States, and actually water down some of these markers on a plate. But in this time of lockdown and all the rest of it, I don't have any, so I can't even cheat that way. It was just a thought though, because that always makes challenges with markers a lot easier, I find, when you've got such a limited colour palette. I don't know what to do with this. I'm just trying to add like a bit of texture or something, just something. I'm trying to use the white of the paper for contrast as much as possible as well. Oh, dagnammit, I've taken off the pencil that I wanted to keep. Oh no. I'm not sure if my Imaginarium has pink grass, but it does now. This is a very calm shade of pink, that's one thing I will say, so I suppose it would be quite fitting for the top side of my Imaginarium. This is just for my book cover, and then I've got this little bookmark as well, which I will outline these, but I just wanted to put the marker in first, I think more to see what happens, to be perfectly honest. Okay, I think that's as good as that side's getting this time, so now I'm going to flip round. I'm going to have to do this big splish splash first because it does sort of dominate the bulk of the image. Okay, so I want this to be quite dark in here. I'm trying to get this guy to look as menacing as possible, and I'm not doing a great job. He needs to be really nasty looking. Brr. Maybe if I make noises that'll help. Okay, yeah, that's better. See, making the noises helped. I feel like I've got to separate off this top and bottom part. Like I want this to be like kind of like a no man's land in the middle here. Oh my goodness, I have just marked all the paper. Oh well, we'll just have to make this into part of the design. Yeah, it looks as if I've got black hundreds and thousands. Well, that's just delightful, isn't it? Yeah, I wanted this to be like a kind of no man's land. Okay, well, no harm done there. No such thing as a mistake, only happy little accidents. Just from a, you know, like the artist perspective and the interpretation point of view, I think having this very sort of clear divide between these two sections just accentuates the sort of two polarised sides of what goes on in my mind. I'm going to get to work on some of these clouds. Kind of ironic that I'm spending the most time on probably the lesser significant parts of the drawing, and it's with the pencil when we're, you know, we've got all this lovely array of markers. Yeah, well. I'm not really sure what I want to do about these eyes on here. There's rather a lot of them, and they are rather small, especially these ones. Eat. I don't know whether I want this to represent like a pool of blood, or I don't really know where I'm going with this, to be honest. I haven't thought this far ahead. But I wanted to keep the blue for these kind of like jagged crags, but everything is so dark. Like these colours are so dark, even the lightest one's really dark. So I think, again, I'm just going to take advantage of the white of the paper. See, that's almost like a cheery colour. If I blend in some of that darker marker, then it might make him look a bit grumpier. A bit grumpier. Okay, I think I'm just going to go with the majority of this blue and then work down with the darker shades and try and get some definition and so on and so forth that way. I've gone about doing this drawing in a really odd fashion. I've kind of like jumped between things and jumped back and forth with the fine liner and the pencils and the markers, and I have no idea why. Normally I'm much more regimented than that. You know, it's like, do the fine lining first, then do this, and this time I just haven't done it, and I really don't know. Maybe maybe my drawings conjured up confusion in my mind. Maybe I'm in this chaotic side of my imagination. I always know when the supplies in one of these boxes isn't a good procurement, you know, they don't work well together, because I get this inclination to redraw whatever it is I've done using different supplies, and I just feel as if the drawing that I want isn't the drawing that I'm doing, and I would need certainly a slightly wider colour palette, not a lot to be fair, but definitely more than I've got here to do this picture, you know, proper justice. And see, that's always a sure indication for me personally that the supplies in the box just haven't been enough. Especially with something like Imaginarium, you know, that is a really broad, potentially diverse prompt, and I would say one of the ones where you need the most leeway with your colour palette. Either that or you have to go in the completely opposite direction and keep it monochromatic, which for me personally, I would love to know what other people think though, you know, just from an artist perspective. Like for me, I think artists' minds are probably one of the more colourful imaginations available, along with other creatives like writers and musicians, etc. I'd be really keen to hear your thoughts on that, just as an aside. Okay, here we go. I don't even know which cap belongs. Yeah, right, okay, that's that one there. So I'm going to use these two darker shades now just to try and get some sort of anything with this. I need to sort of define where the edge of the mountain range is for a start. He looks as if he's smiling. I don't want him to smile. Okay. Right, I've only got this part left to work on now, and I still haven't decided whether I'm going to incorporate this marker or not, this fine liner. I do need my darkest yellow again. I'm actually getting on better blending this with the palest one for, you know, for what I'm looking for here anyway. It's starting to look a bit like caramel, isn't it? Just not what we were going for, but never mind. Do you know what? That's not half bad. Let's try and just do a bit more here. Okay, my friends, there we go. Under the circumstances and the fact that I moaned the entire way through this video, for which I apologise profusely, I'm actually quite happy with this, but I do think it's something that I am going to redraw at a later stage. Now, because there is no right way up for this drawing either, I'm going to sign it along the side. And that is my Imaginarium. I would love to know your thoughts on what I've done, and I'd also like to know your experiences doing this Scrawler challenge and how you have found the supplies as well. I'm always really keen to find out how other people have got on, and I feel like even if we had like one more colour, you know, one more of these markers, I think it would have made all the difference. But under the circumstance, I think we've done reasonably well, and I'm sure you will tell me if you think otherwise. So all that's left to do is thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you coming to hang out with me for a little while, and we shall see you in the next video. Have a good day everyone, and bye for now.